Well, thank you very much, Gordon, for that kind introduction. And I'd also like to pass on my thanks to the Perth US Asia Centre for making all of this possible. We are a very proud sponsor of their great work. I'd also like to thank Dr. Richard Wally for his excellent, as ever, welcome to country, and to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we're meeting on here today, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge the Governor, the Honourable Kim Beazley, Minister Bill Johnson and other ministers and dignitaries that are here today. It is a great attendance. It's great to see so many familiar faces here. It is an honour for me to represent Rio Tinto at the In the Zone conference, particularly on a topic as important as critical minerals. For those of you who aren't familiar with Rio Tinto or our footprint, maybe I'll just give you a quick summary. We're a 146-year-old global mining company with 47,000 people across 35 countries in 6 continents. As a company, we are organised into commodity-based product groups: iron ore, aluminium, copper and diamonds, energy and minerals, and all supported by what's called a Growth and Innovation Work Division. Here in Australia, we have 20,000 employees, and our presence dates back to 1905 and the establishment of the Zinc Corporation in Broken Hill. So it's fair to say that Rio Tinto in Australia go back a long way, and we've been producing the materials the world needs for over 100 years. In fact, as others have commented today, there's a good chance that the building you live in, the car you drive, the smartphone potentially in your hand right now contain at least a little bit of Australia. Which leads me to the heart of the commentary here today. We've gathered to discuss critical materials. Critical materials have clearly been the subject of increased focus lately. In fact, we saw these as one of the key agreements to emerge from Prime Minister Morrison and President Trump in Washington last month. At Rio Tinto, delivering critical materials has always been central to what we do. In fact, our purpose statement reads, "As pioneers in mining and metals, we produce materials essential to human progress." This purpose has an important resonance today as society seeks cleaner, new technology options, the electric vehicles, solar and wind power, and seeks the materials and metals needed to support these advances. In fact, to meet rising demand, the world is expected to need the same amount of copper in the next 25 years as it used in the past 5,000 years. The degree of technological change that we are experiencing is astonishing and here to stay. And mining's role at the front of the supply chain is critical in the 21st century, whether it's telecommunications, IT, manufacturing, transportation, energy or defence. And we've heard many of the speakers already touch on these subjects. I'll give another example that really underscores this point. Wind turbines. A 3 megawatt wind turbine contains 4.7 tonnes of copper, 3 tonnes of aluminium, a tonne of rare earths, 335 tonnes of steel and 1,200 tonnes of concrete. It gives you an idea of the context of the transformation we are facing today. So we see escalating demand for minerals and metals that are going to underpin the new economy. However, the resources industry is at an interesting point in its life cycle, with challenges to our licence to operate in Australia and beyond. So the question for us here at this conference is, how do we overcome these inherent challenges while meeting society's growing need for critical materials? We see 3 key approaches to deliver on this promise whilst meeting these expectations. The first is around leveraging technology. To meet demand for minerals and materials, we are investing in research and development and technology that can be leveraged right around the world. Right here in Western Australia, you have the world's biggest robot. It's our driverless train, AutoHaul, a 2.4 kilometre long, fully autonomous train that connects all our assets in the Pilbara. We're also seeing the mining sector deploy other technology through big data and artificial intelligence. Right now, our sector is building its own Internet of Things to make mining safer, cleaner and more efficient. And maybe I'll give you one example of how this could work in the future. Big data plus artificial intelligence makes possible something called digital twinning. It's a concept we took from NASA. It enables us to build a virtual model of a mine site, continuously updated by real-time data. We can then run forward simulations on that mine site, modelling different operating scenarios. with any number of variables to see whether we get the results we expect, and helping us to avoid unwanted outcomes. This technology is being embedded into Gudai-Darri, our first intelligent mine that's being built right now in the Pilbara. Why is this all important for critical materials? Because efficiency will be critical for creating the better economics around these, quite often more marginal projects, in turn boosting potential supplies. The second thing, and you heard a couple of other speakers touch on this morning, is we're going to need to produce these essential materials responsibly, being mindful that we are managing society's need for critical materials with our impact on environment and the communities around them. That means reducing our impact, including reducing CO2 emissions. And we have just one example right now in Weipa, where we partnered with the Australia's Renewable Energy Agency to replace our diesel plants with solar. And we see, given our large-scale operations in Australia, potential more exciting opportunities in solar in the future. The other critical part of using essential materials better is to use what we already have, our existing mines, to find and develop materials we're going to need for the future. This is about unlocking the companion critical materials often hosted in existing mines. Across the globe, Rio Tinto is partnering with organisations, including the Critical Minerals Institute, which is part of the US Department of Energy, to look at ways of extracting critical minerals at existing operations. Our efforts to date have focused on joint research to improve efficiency at our operations, particularly in Utah, as well as looking at the potential for critical mineral extraction in tailings processing. Rio Tinto has also worked with the Critical Minerals Institute to explore ways of processing e-waste to improve critical materials recovery. This has involved some of our very best processing technology and people. Some of them are right here in Australia at our research facility in Bundoora, Melbourne. These approaches could be applied to a range of other mines and facilities, so watch this space. Third, we will do it by stepping up to the economic challenge that faces us. We need to make bets now on what will be the evolving metals and materials of the future, where technology and materials science are creating a rapidly rising demand for more elements on the periodic table than ever before. We're very focused on the material needs of the future, and we're looking at battery materials like lithium right around the world, and we have a mine, a project in Serbia called Jadar, which could be one of the largest of its type in the world. Our exploration teams are active in Australia and around the world looking for different commodities. Our Winu project in the Paterson region of Western Australia, east of the Pilbara, is a great example of exploration capability, creating a potential growth opportunity in copper. As a country, Australia has an abundant supply of major commodities like copper, zinc, lead, nickel, and gold that often have critical materials as byproducts. Similarly, we also have large resources of lithium, rare earth elements, cobalt, manganese, tantalum, tungsten, and zirconium. It's an enviable position to be in. And while some of these critical minerals might not be economic to extract today, with advances in technology and the right incentives from government to support this kind of innovation, we expect to see significant opportunities for the Australian resources industry in the future. Here, the governments, both the West Australian government and the federal government, are to be commended for their policy work, research, and support for the mining sector in critical materials development. On the policy front, we also think there's an opportunity for trade policy that favours imports of metals or minerals produced under a particular international quality or standard. We also see the potential to grow domestic recycling capability to keep and reuse major commodities like aluminium and critical materials to augment finite new supply and complement the processing activities within existing mines. So I guess I've outlined why we believe this issue is so important and at a high level how we and others are tackling these challenges. But I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't add one final thought, and this is around the necessity for partnership. We need countries to collaborate with one another and the private sector. Within Rio Tinto, we think partnerships are the best way to drive industry and society forward. It can take many forms. From our partnership in Canada with Alcoa and Apple, we're currently doing a revolutionary carbon-free aluminium program called ELYSIS. to our collaboration right here in Perth with TAFE, training our current and future workforce in STEM-focused areas, particularly in automation and related technology. We have such a fantastic opportunity to partner across our country and the Indo-Pacific region. So by leveraging technology, acting responsibly, and stepping up to the economic challenge, and by doing this in partnership across industry, governments and communities, we can unlock the critical materials of the future. Thanks for the opportunity to be part of In the Zone and this crucial discussion on critical materials.